What's up, everyone? So as I promised in the video on Monday, I'm going to first make a few videos about calculus. And the reason that I have to do that first is because I had a viewer who left a comment months ago that asked me to make a few videos of calculus for beginners. So starting from this video, there might be 3 or 4 videos in total that I'll make that is about some concepts in calculus that beginners can even understand it. So here is the first concept in the series of the videos. Here we go. In calculus, the first topic that you probably have learned is what's so-called the limit. And we will write the symbol by using the first 3 letters, LIM, lim. And sometimes you actually see something like this, such as some variable, let's say h, is going to, with an arrow, to some value. In the mathematical content, this is called h is approaching to some value. Let's say if we're going to approach it to 2, then inside of the limit is some function or some expressions so that we're going to see what value is going to approach to. For example, we can talk about something such as x, let me go with some values. Let's say we have something such as 3 minus h squared plus 4h divided by something, for example, 8 minus 2h. Then how are we going to do it? Since this is a video for beginners to understand the concepts in calculus, we'll just go easily. To do that, well, what we need to do is we only need to use this idea here, h approaches to 2, and we're going to replace all the h in the expression by what we're approaching to, which is 2 in this case. So this is what we're going to get. We still have the quantity 3 minus something squared. So as we have an h here, we're going to replace it with 2. Similarly, we have plus 4h, where again we need to replace the h by the number that is approaching to 2. Last but not least, we are going to do the same thing on the denominator. We have 8 minus 2h, where h is again 2. Then we're done for the substitution. And now we just need to finalize it to finish off our calculation. So we get 3 minus 2, which is 1. Square it is still 1. Plus 4 times 2 is 8. Over 8 minus 2 times 2, which gives us 4. So we end up with 9/4 as the answer. Now, why are we allowed to do the substitution? Here is the question that perhaps most beginners might ask. What does that really mean when we say taking the limit, or when some variable is approaching to some value? So here is the idea of it. For instance, if we are using the same example, when we say h is approaching to 2, and we have something like this, 8 minus 2h. What does that mean is, graphically, when we look at the number line, let's say instead of having the variable x, we're going to use the variable h, which is the variable that we have in this expression. Then we're going to look at the 1D graph here and say that here is the number line for the variable h. Then the concept of h is approaching to 2 means that for the value of h, we're going to try to look something that is very close to 2. In other words, we're trying to find some value that is, we call it the neighborhood of 2. And the word neighborhood just means that is some small interval that is including 2, where 2 is, you can assume that 2 is the center of it. And it means that in this case, we can actually in fact get a small neighborhood as small as we want. In math, we call it arbitrary small. So if we try to zoom in the number line and look at the neighborhood, we have 2 here, and we can actually have something like this. How small is the neighborhood? It could be this small, between 1 and 3. Or we can even get it, make it smaller. So I'm going to use a different color. We can of course get the neighborhood this small, but we can make it even smaller like this. And we can keep playing the game. We can make it even smaller and smaller. Then in this case, we're saying that the variable h that we're using is actually approaching to the number in the center of the neighborhood too, because we can see that the inside of the interval, if we are trying to choose some value for h, it's gonna get closer and closer to 2, and eventually we can just assume that we can get as close as possible. So in other words, the area between the h value inside of the neighborhood and the actual value 2 is very small, and we can get it as small as we want, so that we can say the area between, or the difference between the actual h value we find or we choose in the neighborhood and the actual number 2 is arbitrarily small, or we can say it's nearly 0. So when we say that nearly 0, it means that the error is so small that we can nearly ignore it. So that's a reason why for finding a limit, when we are saying a variable is approaching to some number, we can just substitute that number into the variable inside of the expression, so that we can just do the calculation quickly to give us the answer. Okay, so this is the first part of the series of the videos. For the next video, we're going to look at an example that's what happens if we try to simply plug in the numbers and what's go wrong. Okay, all right, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you won't miss other of my videos, and also turn on the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my new videos either. I'll see you guys next time.